On this episode of the Ask Mike Reinold Show, we talk about what we do when athletes don't get better.
The Ask Mike Reinold Show. Helping people feel better, move better, and perform better.
Before we get to the podcast, I wanted to make sure you knew about my free online course on the Introduction to Performance Therapy and Training. If you want to learn how to get started optimizing and enhancing performance, this is the course for you. Head to mikereinold.com/performance to sign up today. Welcome back, everybody, to the latest episode of the Ask Mike Reinold Show. I am up at Champion PT and Performance, Boston, Massachusetts, with our crew of physical therapists and strength coaches answering your questions. If you have anything you want to ask us, don't hesitate. Reach on out. Head to mikereinold.com, click on that podcast link, and you can keep asking us questions. Let me see. I'll go through intros, and then Len, we can introduce the students as usual. Let's go. We're gonna mix it up a little bit. We're gonna go Lisa Russell, Dave Tilley, Dan Pope, Mike Scaduto, Dewesh Podell, and Lenny Macrina.
Hello, and my dog.
Len Mac PT 07.
08.
Did I just give out all your email addresses?
Yeah, exactly.
I accidentally.
At AOL, at Hotmail, at Gmail.
I have Netscape, Earthlink. I mean, there's so many ones that I have all those. That's awesome. Len, who do we have for students today asking our questions?
We have a triumvirate. Is that the term, Scaduto? You know that random triumvirate of people. We have Johnny Herrera, who's in the foreground. He's from Regis. Is it Regis College or Regis University? Do we know the difference? And I don't know which one. It's the one in Colorado, not the one in Boston. So Johnny Herrera is from Regis. I'm gonna go University because it usually sounds more educated. Because Johnny's very educated. We also have Ray Stotzer in the back there, wearing the black pullover. They probably can't hear me. There he is. There he is. Ray is from UAB down in Birmingham, Alabama. And we have Eric King, who comes to us from Franklin Pierce in Arizona, not the New Hampshire campus.
Wow. It's a lot of students.
A lot.
That's crazy right now.
Yeah.
I like it. So Regis, that's the salon one, right? So it's like hair design, nails, and physical therapy. That's what they do at Regis. I hope your professors aren't listening. I don't know why I always think that about Regis, but anyway, Johnny, what do we have for a question today? And I'm just going to preemptively let you know that you're muted.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Steve from Tampa wants to know, do you ever have athletes who don't get better with conservative care?
Fantastic. All right.
If
Thanks,
so,
Johnny. Appreciate it.
What do you do?
All right. That's awesome. So Hayes from Tampa says, do you ever have athletes who don't get better with conservative care? If so, what do you do? I like this question. This is pretty good. Right? Because this is the humble pie question, right? I'll start off and just say no. All my people always get better. No. I don't know. I mean, who wants to take this one on? I mean, I to answer your question, Hayes, just briefly, and then maybe we can all kind of elaborate on this a little bit of maybe why we see this, why it happens, and what we can do about it. But as you get more and more into your career, you're going to realize that, I mean, we can't fix everything, right? We do a really good job putting people in position to succeed, but sometimes they're either too far along the lines or sometimes they just don't help themselves, right? And that's kind of part of the problem sometimes too. So I'll say, yeah, of course, we definitely deal with that. Let's see, did anybody have any experiences or anything they want to share about, like maybe why this happens? Who wants to jump in first?
I guess I'll say a little bit.
One at a time. Good. All right. Well, you're up, Pope.
Okay. I guess kind of as a new grad, you really want to help people as much as possible. So when someone's not making the progress you want, it's really upsetting. I think what's important to keep in mind, first and foremost, is that a lot of these conditions, they take longer to get better than you may think. Right. So many months, oftentimes traditional physical therapy, maybe that's 4 to 6 weeks. How many people are going to get better during that time? And the second piece is, what does better mean? Oftentimes better doesn't mean you have a complete resolution of symptoms, but you make some sort of improvement. So I think that's probably the first thing to keep in mind before you start saying, okay, I failed, I did something wrong, this person needs to get surgery or something along those lines. So
I like it. That makes sense. And good point right there. I mean, like better doesn't necessarily mean 100% sometimes, especially if you're an athlete getting ready for a season or in season, right? There's probably some challenging, stress that they're dealing with on their body. Sometimes better is just getting them to be able to perform again. So, who else? Who wants to jump in? Lisa, was that,
Go ahead, Lisa.
Sure.
Do it.
I mean, even it just, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Just like a simple example, even just last week, I had like a high school athlete come in who was looking for help with some knee pain, right? And he had a history of Osgood-Schlatter's, and like his tibial tuberosity was pretty thick. Like he had like some really big bony overgrowth there, and he was like looking for help with this knee pain of like, oh, sometimes I like bump it on a corner and it really hurts. And I was like, well, I can't change that. Like that's bone. I can't change that, So just, I feel like I've learned to try and let somebody know, like, essentially, like, I can help you with, this bubble of things, but like, if it's a bony thing or something that would require like a surgical change, if you really wanted it, like, I'm not going to be able to do anything there. And, it was like a super simple, like, I mean, PT is just not going to change that kind of pain. Right. So, and yeah, that was just recently. So just a simple example.
Yeah, good point. I mean, we can't change a lot of people's anatomy sometimes. So I think that's a good second thought process here. Is sometimes anatomically, if you have some predisposed anatomical position, so maybe an alignment issue with your hips or something, and you choose a sport that happens to just butt bone into bone, for example. I mean, that's something that we're going to have a very difficult time doing. Who else? Who else has anything on here? What do you got, Len?
Yeah, I mean, I treat a lot, and probably Scuduto too can probably talk as well. But we treat a lot of baseball, obviously. So we do a lot of non-op, or trying to be non-op Tommy John injuries or labral tears in their shoulder. And when I had somebody present to me, and the doc's like, "No, go to PT. There's a way that we can avoid surgery." We got to set up a game plan ahead of time. So I think that's key for this person. Is what are you trying to achieve during this rehab, and how much time do you think we have? And then you got to plan out, if we don't hit our goals, meaning pain-free, whatever, throwing or whatever it is, then you need to have a date where you need to potentially have like that conversation where maybe we're sending you back to the doctor. So for us, I'm planning ahead. If I can get you to this point and throw, then, and you're pain-free, then you're good. But if you're still having pain at this time and we have a surgery, I can save your next season or your next whatever you're trying to get to, because I know it's going to take 9 to 12 months of rehab. So you're not going to see that with an ACL too much. Although people talk about copers and non-copers, but for us, the UCLs of the elbow and the labrums of the shoulder, we are coming up with a strategy. What we found in our objective measurements, you got some obvious weakness, you had some pain because you were overdoing it. Maybe it was a volume issue, or you're doing a new program, some weighted balls or something, and then we break it down and come up with a game plan for them and create smaller goals so we can hit that. And if not, we have almost a drop dead date so we can get you ready for the next season.
Yeah, and oftentimes it doesn't work, right, Len? Because structurally, maybe you damage your ligament so much that it's just beyond the point where it's it's going to heal. So awesome. What's up, Dave? What do you think? What do you?
Yeah, I think kind of this is unfortunately an elephant in the room for my sport, for gymnastics. But Lisa was talking about things you can control versus things you can't control. Well, you can't control their people, right? Like I have a lot of dead ends where in my heart, I realize that the gym they're a part of, the coach they're working under, the parents' influence, and that kind of stuff is like they need to change maybe like their thoughts about how much they train and how many reps they do and their strength and conditioning. And like it's such a hard conversation to have, but there's been times when I'm just like, well, until we really have a hard conversation about why you're training 6 days a week and 5 hours a day and you don't want to do anything in the off season but do gymnastics, like this is a really hard uphill battle. So as a young new grad, like Dan said, I wanted to kind of save everybody and see if I could like change the world. And you quickly realize that some people just aren't open to hearing what you have to say. And so, I mean, we have great systems, I think, at Champion, and still people just refuse to have an open ear. So you got to realize like, okay, I've done all that I can and I'll help you out. But, I think there's a bigger fish to fry here.
I like that. And, you know, I think the only other thing I'd add, just like briefly, just to kind of, I guess, wrap it up here, is that oftentimes when we're dealing with athletes that are having an issue, we're not just completely shutting them down and like rehabbing them at this like really low baseline with just infinite amount of time. Oftentimes we're either trying to flirt with that line of injury, right? Where we're trying to get them back as fast and as safely as we can, but we're flirting with as fast as we can, right? That's kind of sometimes the most important thing that we do. So sometimes we kind of we kind of dip into that too much. So kind of like what Dan said at, you know, at the beginning of this a little bit here, is just, you know, sometimes where, you know, we have to define what's better, I guess, is the question. But, you know, something to kind of to keep in mind. So great question. I think that was you know, I think that it was super helpful, because I think a lot of people probably deal with that, and I think a lot of people early in their careers are very self-conscious of that, right? They feel bad, like that we can't help everybody. But just remember, even, you know, even the progress that you make with somebody, even if they don't fully resolve their issues, is probably some pretty substantial progress for them. If they end up having surgery or something, it's going to make their post-operative success rate probably even higher. So lots of benefits still from doing that sort of stuff. So so awesome question, Hazer. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for submitting one. If you have a question like that, please head to mikereinold.com, click on that podcast link, and keep asking away. Please, again, iTunes, Spotify, head there, rate, review, and we will see you on the next episode. Thanks again.